Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Science versus Scientism. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it has rendered. I am joined by John, otherwise known as Quantum Eraser, who's going to tell us a little bit of information about the creator. First and foremost, how you doing, John? Good to have you.
Doing fine, sir. Thanks for having me again.
Absolute pleasure. So, do you want to start by telling us how we've come onto this conversation, and then maybe we'll launch into your actual presentation in a sec?
Yeah, I think it was just more or less by accident, or just talking with each other, and the subject came up. I mean, as it always will.
Indeed.
The subject of a creator or no creator is coming up. Eventually, when you get into any discussion or any deep discussion about our reality. Yep.
Cool. Do you want to launch straight into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
well, let's start right at the beginning. Creation, right? So, from Alexander Vilenkin, esteemed cosmologist, it is said that an argument is what convinces reasonable men, and a proof is what it takes to convince even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. From Professor Davies, the universe can't have existed forever. We know there must have been an absolute beginning a finite time ago. So there's no question here. He didn't tell you why. So let's get to the reason why. And from the late Stephen Hawking, this argument about whether or not the universe had a beginning persisted into the 19th and 20th centuries. It was conducted mainly on the basis of theology and philosophy, with little consideration of observational evidence. This may have been reasonable given the notoriously unreliable character of cosmological observations until fairly recently. The cosmologist Sir Arthur Eddington once said, "Don't worry if your theory doesn't agree with observations, because they are probably wrong. But if your theory disagrees with the second law of thermodynamics, it is in bad trouble. In fact, that the universe has existed forever is in serious difficulty. That means, let me translate that for you, pummeled with the second law of thermodynamics. The second law states that disorder always increases with time. Like the argument about human progress, it indicates that there must have been a beginning. Must have. No doubt about it. Right? So what you usually get, or what I usually get inevitably, is the quantum fluctuations, right? Well, you got two problems right there. One, you need a quantum vacuum. That means you need a universe in the first place, and you're not getting any quantum fluctuations without a knower of the existence of the which path information. So that one's done. And the Big Bang fairy tale, I mean, it's number one, it's not a scientific theory to begin with. Number two, where'd you get the singularity from? All right. So, like I said, so everyone must be a creationist. The only question is, or who or what caused it, right? Now, this is critically important. There are only two possible answers, that is, ontological primitives, to that question. Only two worldviews that can be held to account for how we, the universe, and us are here. That is nature or intelligent agency. That's it. From George Wald, Nobel laureate, medicine and physiology, he's gonna lay it out for you real quick. The reasonable view was to believe in spontaneous generation. The only alternative is to believe a single primary act of supernatural creation. There is no third position. So let's break this down. Number one, the reasonable view was to believe in spontaneous generation, that is, nature or unguided. The only alternative, a single primary act of supernatural creation, God guided. There it is. That's it. There is no third position. So the true dichotomy is nature versus God. Period. End of story. Now, if you outright refute or rule out one of those choices, then based on the laws of logic, you ipso facto must believe the other. It's called a disjunctive syllogism. It's a logical argument of the form that if there are only two possibilities and one of them is ruled out, well, the other one then must therefore be true. Real easy. There they are, right there. It's either natural phenomena or intelligent design. Now, people can conjure all kinds of things, but every single thing they do conjure will fall beneath either natural phenomena or intelligent design. The most common one I get is, the aliens. It has to be aliens. Well, are they intelligent? Yeah, so they'll fall under intelligent design. And furthermore, that's not really saying too much because you just kick the question or kick the can down the street. Because then the next question is, well, how were the aliens created? Was it intelligent design or natural phenomena? So that it ends it right there. This is critically important to understand. And it makes it real easy from here on out. This also pummels the God of the gaps appeals or an argument from ignorance fallacy, right? Because there are no gaps. It's either intelligent design or natural phenomena. That's it. And it pummels the presupposition appeals because everyone has a presupposition. The atheist presupposition is that there is no God or creator. So therefore, their presupposition is natural phenomena or nature created us. So that kind of cracks me up when they call me a presuppositionalist. Well, so are you. It exposes the entire charade right on its face. Like I said, therefore, the atheist creator must be matter or nature, and that is philosophical naturalism or realism. If your choice is nature, you kind of have some big problems. Number one, matter cannot create itself because that would mean it existed prior to its existence. That's logical seppuku. And from Professor Bernard D. Espignon, listen closely, folks. The doctrine that the world is made up of objects whose existence is independent of human consciousness, that is mind-independent reality, or philosophical naturalism, realism, that's atheism, turns out to be in conflict with quantum mechanics and with facts established by experiment. It's over. It's over right there. That is, matter is derivative, the consequent, and consciousness or knowledge is primary. That is the necessary antecedent. Simple as that, folks. Oh, supernatural. This term has more baggage than Samsonite. But let's break it down. Let's see what it means. So the prefix super means over and above. What does nature mean? Well, the physical world and everything in it. And therefore, natural is the physical material world. So supernatural must mean above or beyond the material physical world or universe. Therefore, it logically follows that the supernatural is immaterial, completely lacking matter and energy, right? So, I ask the question, do these exist? Truth, logic, information, time, thoughts, mass. These are immaterial or supernatural by definition. Unless you can post a chemical formula or structure, charge, mass, momentum, or spin, or the kcals, joules, millielectron volts for each of the above. Can you give that to me? Of course not. It's preposterous. It's a ridiculous question. So if not, Alice in Wonderland is more tenable than your position. Moreover, in an atheistic worldview, that is philosophical naturalism or realism, that's scientifically falsified, by the way. We'll get more into detail into that here in a few minutes, which has its bedrock foundation that the physical material world is all that exists How on earth can the immaterial exist without violating the law of non-contradiction? That is, how can the material, physical world be all that exists and have the immaterial exist, right? It's a right in your face contradiction. Like I said, the truth, logic, information, time, thoughts, math are again, by definition, supernatural. So if you're an atheist and you believe in these, then you must be a supernatural atheist, right? Now that'll give married bachelors a run for their money. Essentially, what atheists are doing, which is really incomprehensibly absurd, they're adopting the Christian worldview by using the immaterial, thoughts, truth, logic, and information, using the very tenets their religion must deny the existence of as the vehicle or medium to present evidence against the very thing they can't believe in, a creator, the Christian worldview. See it? Logically, it's a hammer meets C4 fire scenario. It makes a $6 million man crash and burn look like a fender bender. It's tantamount to attempting to falsify air, all the while breathing in vast quantities to reach the invalidation. Therefore, every atheist is a presuppositional kleptomaniac because they're stealing my worldview. Stop stealing and using my worldview to clumsily attempt to falsify my worldview, please. Information, the bully on the block. This is critically important to understand. All of the actual sciences, physics, that is quantum mechanics, genetics, biochemistry, are all information sciences. Why? Well, information is more than just a description of our universe and the stuff in it. It is the most basic currency of existence, occupying what theorist Paul Davy terms as the ontological basement of reality. Well, Professor Davies is close. He's one step away. Information, as I said, is the consequent of its necessary antecedent. The knower, or an intelligent agent, can't have information without an intelligent agent. We're going to see that here in a couple minutes. Information, let's define it. This is real easy. Information, the communication or reception of knowledge or intelligence. Just that simple, folks. That's what it is. Codes make up 99.9% of it. From Grunwald and Vitania, algorithmic information theory. And we all know this, but let's let them say it. We repeatedly consider the following scenario. A sender, say A, wants to communicate or transmit some information to a receiver, say B. The information to be transmitted is an element from some set X. It will be communicated by sending a binary string called the message. When B receives the message, he can decode it again and hopefully reconstruct the element of X that was sent. This is very important. To achieve this, A and B need to agree on a code or a description method before communicating. Because if they don't, it's all going to be noise, right? And is it possible for inanimate matter, that's atoms and molecules, to make agreements and communicate with each other? I don't think so. So for information, as we can see, I highlighted a few terms up here. What do we need? For information to exist, you not only need a transmitter and a receiver, but they need to agree beforehand on the medium, convention, and the meaning. Let me give you an example. Which one of these is information? Then why or why not? You can just answer these questions to yourself. Number one or number two? Obviously, number two is information. I mean, if you read English, number two is information. What's number one? Is there anything in there that anyone can elucidate or decipher? Not so much, right? This is just noise. However, after I give you the cipher for one, they both contain the exact same information. Meet me at Joe's for drinks. What's the difference? Well, like I said, we didn't agree on the cipher beforehand of number one. So if I sent you the cipher beforehand, The cipher is every fourth letter. You can go through that on your own. It's the same thing. Meet me at Joe's for drinks. Another example, what's the information in here? Well, anyone looking at it is just going to say, come on, man, give me a break, you know? Well, the information in there is Jesus saves. The cipher that you didn't receive is every fifth, fourth, third, second, first, then start over. Right, and then you can go through that on your own to figure it out. I just want you to get the concept. One of my favorites, and this isn't a personal dig to the audience out there, Nathan. Paul Revere, what's the code? 1 light or 2 lights, right? Well, what's the software or the information? Well, it was the agreed upon meaning, convention, and medium between Paul and the Patriots. Well, who created the software and the message or the information? The 1 if by land or 2 if by sea? A, was it the lights? Or B, Paul Revere and the Patriots? Which one? According to a philosophical naturalist or realist or atheist, it must be the lights, right? What would have happened if Paul Revere never met, that is, agreed on the medium, convention, and the meaning with the Patriots and just sent signals, 1 or 2 lights at random from the Old North Church? Not much. Say, we might be having tea and strumpets daily. Moreover, was it the lights or the medium that coordinated the meeting? Of course not. It's preposterous. Information is semiotic. That is, it's not a physical entity or a part of the medium of conveyance. Photons from Paul Revere's lamps weren't physically carrying information. The lights were just the medium used to signal the intelligent agents, who then assigned the prearranged meaning. Now information exists. It is only then they know which path. So you're looking at a code right now. It's called the English language. The software of the information is the preemptive agreed upon convention so we can understand the message. It's semiotic. Without meaning, convention, and agreement, there is no information. And you just seen a perfect example of that with my examples above. It's utter noise. Code, information, software is always, ever sourced by intelligent agency, without exception. So it's not only important to know what information is, but it's critically important to know what information isn't. Your interpretation of the physical effects or the consequences of the existence of inanimate objects is not information. It's your imagination. When I put my hand under running water, the water's not informing me that it's wet or that it's cold or hot. When a tree branch falls in the woods, the sound waves aren't communicating me I've fallen and I can't get up. Moreover, information is not the medium used to convey it, and the medium is arbitrary. For example, it's the same as someone writing, "Look out, there's a tiger behind you." That's information. Those are instructions, right? Well, I can write it in just about anything, any medium. Chalk, sand, Cheerios, Etch-a-Sketch, M&Ms, 3/4 inch nuts. I can go up for quite a while here. It's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. And atheists have another big problem with information because information is neither matter or energy. Well, their worldview states that only matter or energy exist, right? From Norbert Wiener, professor of mathematics, MIT, information is information, neither matter nor energy. I mean, he said it. Everyone, we know this, prima facie. So, how on earth can atheists even account for information existing in their worldview? If you're a philosophical naturalist, realist, or atheist, the bedrock foundation of your religion, like I said, is that matter or energy is all that there is. So pray tell, if information is neither matter nor energy, and your beliefs dictate that matter or energy is all there is, well, then you're in what we call the industry screwed. Married bachelors are more tenable. So now the evidence is we finally got there. We needed to establish those foundations. In fact, I really don't have to go on any further. It's already over. But since we scheduled this, we might as well go ahead and do it. So, evidences for the creator. Bear in mind, these are not belief propositions. They are knowledge claims. Big difference right there, folks. So let's go through them. Number one, scientific law. This is my law. Don't go trying and ask me for citations and where this came from. It's mine. I made it. So, information, code, software is only ever caused by intelligent agency, without exception. That is, whenever we find information existing and trace it back to its source, it invariably leads to an intelligent agent every single time. My support? Library of Congress, all books, all newspapers, all languages, all computer software. The information age. It's right in front of our face. So, my null hypothesis in support. Nature or natural phenomena causation cannot create algorithmic cybernetic coding and decoding schemes. That's information. If you cry foul and claim that there's no information or code in the genetic code, you're screwed. From Hood and Gallus, the digital code of DNA in nature. DNA has two types of digital information. The genes that encode proteins, which are the molecular machines of life, that should jump off the page at you, and the gene regulatory networks that specify the behavior of genes. From the father of information theory, H.P. Yockey, and no, it's not Claude Shannon, it's H.P. Yockey. The genetic code performs a mapping between the sequences of the 4 nucleotides in messenger RNA to the sequences of the 20 amino acids in a protein. It is highly relevant to the origin of life that the genetic code is constructed to confront and solve the problems of communication and recording by the same principles found both in the genetic information system and in modern computer and communication codes. From Richard Dawkins. That's a hostile witness if I ever seen one. There is enough storage capacity in the DNA of a single lily seed or a single salamander sperm to store the Encyclopedia Britannica 60 times over. Some species of the unjustly called primitive amoebas have as much information in their DNA as 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannicas. So I have roughly about 1.8 million more in support if you need them. So, my position, the null hypothesis. Nature, natural phenomena, causation cannot create algorithmic cybernetic coding and decoding schemes. That's DNA transcription and translation. It's all information based. And as we went over in the previous discussion in the other video, the null hypothesis is what? Well, it's the default. We will accept the null hypothesis if you fail to provide sufficient evidence for the alternative hypothesis. So, the alternative hypothesis, your position, which you have to provide evidence for to refute this, because it's the default. Nature, natural phenomena causation can create algorithmic cybernetic coding and decoding schemes. Right? Best wishes. So essentially, you must show ink, paper, and glue molecules authoring technical instruction manuals or blueprints. That's what you got to show to overthrow my null hypothesis or to reject it. Now, the ink, paper, and glue molecules is analog to ribose, nucleobases, and activated phosphates. The technical instruction manual or blueprints is DNA. If not, therefore a creator, period. Essentially, the syllogism. Code contains information, such as a book, Morse code, DNA, instructions, etc. Information is only created by authors. That's intelligent agent. DNA is a code, therefore DNA has an author. This is irrefutable. All these are irrefutable. You can't touch them. The next one, quantum mechanics, my favorite. So, let's observe a phenomenon. Photons, elementary particles, atoms, molecules exhibit both wave-like and particle behavior. Sure, you see that part, wave-like. Alternative hypothesis. If the witch path information is known or can be known, then we will observe no interference. That is, wave function collapse. That is, matter existing. The independent variable is inside the experimental setup. It's known versus unknown paths. Dependent variable is matter existing. The null hypothesis. So if the witch path information is not known and never can be known, then we will observe interference. That means the wave function is intact. That is no matter. So with the experiment, which ones of the thousands without exceptions would you like? From Zhao Sung Ma, quantum erasure with a causally disconnected choice from the preceding National Academy of Sciences. They say the presence of path information anywhere in the universe is sufficient to prohibit any possibility of interference. It is irrelevant whether a future observer might decide to acquire it. The mere possibility is enough. Therefore, the lack of witch path information anywhere in the universe is sufficient enough to prohibit any possibility of wave function collapse. That is, no formation of matter. You don't have matter without a knower first. From Yunhoo Kim, my namesake, a delayed choice quantum eraser. This experiment is the undisputed. And if you want to see a full exposition, a detailed exposition on this experiment, stop by Cathexis's channel. I think it's episode 4, Quantum Physics. The authors show not only that knowledge of the witch path information solely collapses the wave function, but can accurately predict future actions of wave-like and particle behavior after the signal photon is registered and before its twin idler has arrived. That is, quantum mechanical phenomena transcend time and space. Good night, Einstein, as an ancillary benefit. In conclusion, this experiment unequivocally validates knowledge or knowing of the witch path information alone causes wave function collapse. B, decoherence, that's physical interaction with measuring devices, does not cause wave function collapse. And C, QM phenomena transcend time and space. That is, space-time has no meaning in quantum mechanics. Ergo, matter, our reality, doesn't exist without first a knower of the existence of the witch path information. And again, matter is derivative, consciousness or knowledge is primary, the necessary antecedent. Another fatal dagger, non-locality, or what they call instantaneous actions at a distance, or what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. The only thing is spooky is his science acumen. So to overturn the scientific falsification of locality and by direct proxy, philosophical naturalism or realism or atheism, whereby invalidating idealism or Christianity, which is not a religion, by the way, and we're going to get to that here in a few minutes. And as an ancillary benefit, collect yourself a feather in your cap, Nobel Prize. Please take up the Quantum Randy Challenge. The Quantum Randy Challenge, henceforth the QRC, challenges any pseudoscientist, you as it were, who claims that quantum physics is not true and that quantum entanglement experiments can be explained by a classically realistic and locally causal model. You not only get the Nobel and its money, you get an extra $1 million in US. All you have to do is prove naive realism or local realism is true and not observation dependent. That's more like knowledge or which path information independent. 6+ years now, still no takers. This is still active. 6 years. No takers. I wonder why. Alice in Wonderland has more veracity and is more tenable than philosophical naturalism and realism. Or atheism. Same thing. Therefore, a creator. This is a quick one. The laws of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics. The total amount of mass or energy in the universe is constant. That is, nature or natural law cannot create or destroy matter or energy. The second law. The amount of energy available for work is running out. The universe is moving inexorably to maximum entropy, or what they call a heat death. or the big chill. If the total amount of mass or energy is constant and the amount of usable energy is decreasing, then the universe will end. The heat death, the big chill of the universe. Therefore, it had a beginning, creation, and not the Big Bang pseudoscience train wreck. So, since the first law states that nature or natural law cannot create or destroy matter or energy, and since the universe had a beginning, see the second law, and since there are only two choices, nature versus intelligent design, for the how of that beginning, and since matter and nature can't pre-exist before its existence, then poof itself into existence, and then before that, poof itself from nothing into pre-existence, therefore a creator. Too easy. Let's summarize this thus far. Number one, the universe had a beginning. Number two, the universe is made of matter. Number three, matter is the consequent, a knower is the necessary antecedent. See quantum mechanics and the laws of thermodynamics above. Four, therefore, a creator. Real simple. Philosophical naturalism and realism, that is atheism, is pummeled and eviscerated. Your only other choice, atheists, must assert, like I just said, the train wreck above, matter pre-existed before it existed, then poofed itself into existence. Before that, it poofed itself from nothing into pre-existence. This train wreck directly violates the first law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, quantum mechanics, and, by the way, from Professor Shankar, the chair professor of physics at Yale, the laws of physics are always quantum mechanical laws. You don't have separate laws for big and small things, so all of physics is debunked. Fourth, the laws of chemistry. If you take all the physical laws, that means chemistry, biochemistry, all laws are gone. Five, the laws of information are gone, and ground squirrel level common sense is also eviscerated. And isn't this dumpster fire not only belief without evidence, but belief in the face of contradicting evidence? Right? The best part, creationists and more or less Christians that we're talking about are called what? Right? What do we call? We're the science deniers. What? Who's the science deniers again? Unbelievable. That leads us into this. I want to take a little sidebar. We all heard this, faith versus science, or religion or faith versus science. Let me show you this bait and switch. The powers that need not be couch or frame the argument as science versus faith. We all know this. Religion, belief without evidence. That's all it is, folks. The object of that belief is irrelevant. It could be pixie dust and unicorns. If you don't have evidence for it and you believe it, that's a religion. It's synonymous with faith. Belief that does not rest on logical proof or material evidence, right? That's from the American Heritage Dictionary in 1991. Verse science, the scientific method, or as it seems to be. We're going to flesh it out here in a second. On its face, it's a proxy or a juxtaposition on the methods, right? Faith, the method, is belief without evidence. Like I said, that's factually incorrect. We'll get to that. Verse science, the method. It's the methods that are in focus here, the scientific method. Of course, that's not what's going on here. In reality, the so-called disciplines that are screaming from the rooftops that there is no God are who? Well, they're the ones that don't follow the scientific method. We identified the masqueraders in the last presentation. These guys, right? The masqueraders. They're not science. Crocheting is more scientific than these clowns combined. So the science part in the science versus faith is actually religion. These are religion, folks. Belief without evidence. And more importantly, biblical faith has substance and evidence. Let's just take it right from the book. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So it has substance and evidence. And this is another tiny little problem from 1 Thessalonians. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. Hold fast. Right? prove all things. Does this sound like a rally call to belief without evidence or believe without evidence? No. Is Christianity a religion? Nope. It's a contradiction. Let that marinate, folks. All this is just little word games, little mental and linguistic acrobatics. So the faith part in science versus faith is actually blind faith, giving us religion versus blind faith. Well, what's the difference, right? That's what it actually is. Let's flesh out the true dichotomy. Back to these again. Atheism directly violates the first law, second law of thermodynamics, quantum mechanics, laws of chemistry and biochemistry, laws of information, and ground squirrel level common sense. And like I said, isn't this dumpster fire not only belief without evidence? That's religion. But it's belief in the face of contradicting evidence. This is willfully blind, fanatical religious zealotry, right? Who fell for this false dichotomy, science versus faith? So in reality, the true argument actually is this guy. Scientifically falsified fanatical religion, pseudoscience, versus intelligent agency, God. There's your true dichotomy, folks. Let's get ready to rumble, right? Not going to be too much of a rumble. Number 4, the last proof. I got about 30 of them, but we'll just roll with the last one here. Functional sequence specified complexity. What you'll hear people say is, oh, complexity. Snowflakes, they're complex, or bring up innumerable things of complexity and try to muddy the waters. Well, these are complex. How do you know the intelligent agent made these? Yeah. All right. Let's see if that holds water. Functional sequence specified complexity. Hallmarks reveal intent, purpose, planning, choice, interlinked systems, often with contingency, contrived. That is, without deterministic law like necessity. What you don't hear, there are 3 types of complexity. Number 1, random sequence complexity. Number 2, ordered sequence complexity. And number 3, functional sequence specified complexity. Random, just like how it sounds, you pick a handful up, throw them against the wall, whatever sticks, well, there you go. The aftermath of a tornado is a good example. Ordered sequence complexity is just like how it sounds, right? Crystals, snowflakes, sand dunes, fractals. As opposed to functional sequence specified complexity. It puts the lotion in the basket. Sandcastles, the genetic code, barbecue grills, Indy cars, hyper nanotech machines and robots, kinesin, ATP synthase, flagellum, cilia, all these molecular machines and robots, and thousands of others in your cells. So random sequence complexity and ordered sequence complexity, that equals a nature construct. As opposed to functional sequence complexity, that is an intelligent design construct. We can tell it real easy. All of us know it intuitively. It's the difference between this and this, right? We all know the difference here. We know there's a different mediator that's causing this, right? Hopefully we all know that. From the Grand Poobah, Leslie Orgel of Origin of Life Research. In brief, living organisms are distinguished by their specified complexity. Crystals are usually taken as the prototypes of simple, well-specified structures because they consist of a very large number of identical molecules packed together in a uniform way. Lumps of granite or random mixtures of polymers are examples of structures that are complex, but not specified. The crystals fail to qualify as living because they lack complexity. The mixtures of polymers fail to qualify because they lack specificity. From H.P. Yockey again, the attempts to relate the idea of order with biological organization or specificity must be regarded as a play on words that cannot stand careful scrutiny. This is what this whole game boils down to, folks. It's just play on words, incoherent plays on words. Informational macromolecules can code genetic messages and therefore can carry information because the sequence of bases or residues is affected very little, if at all, by self-organizing physical-chemical factors. So what H.P. Yockey is trying to tell you that ink molecules don't conspire with other ink molecules or with paper to go ahead and construct letters or symbols into sentences to form coherent messages. I think he's got a pretty good case. From the king of the laws of thermodynamics, Nobel Prize winner, Ilya Prigogine. The point is that in a non-isolated open system, there exists a possibility of formation of ordered, low entropy structures at sufficiently low temperatures. This ordering principle is responsible for the appearance of ordered structures, such as crystals, as well as for phenomena of phase transition. For water, that's liquid water, ice, water vapor, and snowflakes. Unfortunately, this principle cannot explain the formation of biological structures. So there goes your snowflakes appeal. By the way, no amount of random sequence complexity or ordered sequence complexity or any combination thereof will ever lead to functional sequence complexity. That is, folks, what he's trying to say is that no amount of this will ever give you this. We all know this. Other examples of functional sequence specified complexity, cholecystokinin. This is a peptide hormone that's functional protein produced in the mucosal epithelium of the small intestine and stimulates release of digestive enzymes from the pancreas, vital for digestion and absorption. Without it, you die. Albumin, a functional protein, this is only produced by the liver. It consists of a single polypeptide chain of 580 amino acids. Of its many functions, its main function is to maintain intravascular oncotic colloidal osmotic pressure. It is vital to homeostasis. Without it, you die. You can't interchange these. They are functionally specific, sequentially complex. You cannot interchange them. They are specifically designed for their specific roles and their specific functions. So if you're still having a case of the willful stupids with complexity or mindlessly parroting pseudoscience priests, call or email the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and ask them how they can tell the difference between random sequence complexity and ordered sequence complexity and functional sequence specified complexity. They'll tighten your shock group right quick. Information, all of biology, that is life, the genetic code, replication, transcription, translation, every single metabolic pathway, all of physics, basically all of reality, are the quintessential examples of functional sequence specified complexity. Therefore, a creator. Now, let's take a listen on what the legends of physics have to say about this matter. So, Max Planck, his acceptance speech, 1918, for his Nobel Prize. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force, which brings the particle of an atom to a vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious, intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Now, what would happen if Max Planck was alive today and said this on the nightly news, on the BBC? What would happen to him? He'd get tar and feathered, right? Another one, Werner Heisenberg, pioneer of quantum mechanics. Listen to this one, folks. The first gulp from the glass of natural science will turn you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. These guys all knew this. They knew this back in the day. Why don't we know it now? What would happen to him if he did this on national news? I think he burned at the stake. A couple things pointed out here. Do you guys see the true dichotomy here? Natural atheist versus what? God. Another one, the first gulp from the glass of natural science. Most people haven't even acquired the glass yet. We all know these, right? We all know who these people are. That's a pretty outstanding statement from Werner Heisenberg right here, folks. Let that marinate. A couple other things. Let's just clear a couple what I like to call background noise, and then we'll finish up here. So we all heard this, right? Who created the creator's creator's creator? That conundrum. This is a fallacy, folks. He is the creator. The creator can't be created, or else he couldn't be the creator. By simple definition. Furthermore, logically, for finite things to exist, that is the universe and us, there must be an eternal, always was source. It's a contingent necessity, antecedent fact. See Aristotle, prime, unmoved mover, first cause. To deny this, you are forced into a logical checkmate, then reduced to introducing an infinite regress fallacy. That's what this is. Nothing can create itself, because that would mean it existed prior to its existence. That's logical seppuku. Also, there can only be one creator. Considering more than one, even for a Planck time, is logical seppuku. As for the philosophical naturalist or realist or atheist, they believe that the universe created them, right? Well, I always challenge them. I turn it on them and say, who created your creator? I don't like that very much. So, after all this, we finally realize, I mean, you can't get out of it. There must be a creator. So the next logical follow-on question is what? Well, who is it? This is a systematic method to find that out. This is a personal method. I use this myself. It's quite simple. Since we know from the laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics that whoever it is, the creator must be outside of what we call the universe. So, make a list of every single purported deity and their respective claims on how they and the universe came to be. Next, you cross off the ones that are a product of the universe or claim that the universe has existed forever, right? Why? They're pretender clowns, because we already know what. Well, the universe can't have existed forever. We know there must have been an absolute beginning a finite time ago. We already know this. After you do that, there's only one left standing. He's the Alpha and the Omega, Jesus Christ. The largest escrow closing in the history of the universe is at the door, folks. Where do you stand? All glory to him. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
Good presentation. Can you just go back to the Max Planck bit again? Just go through it once more.
Sure. Yep. Good.
Yep. Got it on screen.
Let me put this as a little small. Can you see this?
Just about, yeah. Well, I can.
Let me go ahead and make it bigger.
This mind is the matrix of all matter, which in modern terms is a contradiction in terms, right?
The mind is the matrix of all matter. Well, it says more or less, well, he's saying the mind is the matrix. It is the foundation. That is, you can't have the framework of matter without the mind first.
Yeah, you're saying by definition that information, which is not matter, by existence proves the creator.
Yes. Well, you can't have matter existing. It's a quantum mechanics proof. Matter doesn't exist until someone knows the which path information. Yep.
Right, and this is where, if there's even a probability of it being perceived, it therefore will collapse, correct?
Yeah, what they're trying to say about the perception, that is, if information exists in our reality, let's say it's me and you, we're we go out, we're standing on the beach or something, and we see an island out in the distance. And we're both looking at it. And now information exists that island is there. Now we can turn away, it doesn't matter, because there is 100% probability that if I turn around, that island's going to be there, or you turn around, that island's going to be there.
Isn't there, what's that experiment with the cat in the fridge? Schrodinger's cat, is that right?
Yeah, Schrodinger's cat. Yeah, it's similar to that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a proxy on that, sure. Yeah. Without knowledge, then you really don't know.
Yeah, I followed that. It's a lot to take in, as you can probably hear in the tone of my voice, but yeah.
It is a lot to take in, and a lot of these things have to do, especially with matter existing, with quantum mechanics. So you have to have some type of expertise in quantum mechanics, but it won't take you too long going through the experiments, because every single experiment more or less says the same thing. They may say it in different words, trying to get around the fact, but they're not getting around it.
Fair enough. I asked Sleeping Warrior to come on in case he had any questions. I haven't got any good questions to ask, basically, hence I asked him along.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favourite topics. This is it's a pet hate of mine how people often cite that evolution can only be a fact because, and then they give their reasons for it.
Evolution doesn't exist.
You'll have to. Yeah, you'll have to forgive me because the first couple of minutes where you probably gave this answer, I was in the shower. What did you give was for the definition of what is evolution?
Oh, I didn't go over evolution here. We're going over reality here. So I didn't bring up evolution, right, because evolution doesn't exist. It can't be defined.
No, I agree, because earlier on you were talking about creation, right?
Yes.
So I assumed when you were talking about creation that you'd already dealt with evolution when I was in the shower. But if that's not the case, that's fine. With regards to evolution, you didn't mention evolution at all in this discussion, no?
No.
Okay. So that means that sorts a lot of stuff. I agree with you. Evolution, there is no evidence of it. I agree that the only evidence that evolution...
No, there's not. Let me stop you right there. There's not only no evidence of it. And somebody's echoing real bad.
Oh, it might be me.
So it's not that there's no evidence for evolution. Nobody can define the scientific theory of evolution. Nobody. It doesn't exist. So I didn't bring it up because it has really nothing to do with the presentation whatsoever.
Okay. That was what I was going to ask you. I assumed that I missed it whilst I was in the shower. Whatever the definition that you gave was, if you didn't give it because you didn't address it, then the point that I was going to ask isn't really there. With regards to the creation side, to the point, with regards to the moment of inception within the human reproduction cycle, science cannot explain satisfactorily what happens other than the sperm has an explosive head, it penetrates through the egg, and then magic happens. Basically, science has no idea what happens. However, 18 years later, or nearly 19 years later, we have a fully grown adult. If that's... what more evidence do you need, right?
I'm sorry, you were cutting off there, but I think I got the main gist of the message. Now, listen, you started your story on page 50 of the book because you started out with a living cell. You can't, number one, for quantum mechanics, you don't have matter without a knower first, number one. Number two, they can't even form a single functional 30-mer functional DNA, RNA, or protein naturally. They can't even get a single molecule. That's light years before life. They can't even get that. So it's all fiasco. It's all fiasco. If you ask 10 people what evolution is, you're going to get 10 different answers because nobody knows. They just make it up as they go.
Fair enough.
That's the reality of the situation, and this is all tied together. You know, a lot of people say, you know, flat Earth. This is not talking about evolution. This is not talking about the Big Bang. This is not talking about no. This is all tied together. They're tied together at the lips. They have to have evolution. Whether, you know, evolution, Big Bang, they have to have their billions of light years, right? They have to have, all these are tied together. They have to have them. They complement each other because it's leading to something, right? What do you think it's leading to? So you got evolution, you got these billions of light years across, or millions of light years across, who knows anymore, and all these, you know, trillions of galaxies, right? You got the spinning ball that comes out of the Big Bang. What's all this leading to?
I always boiled it down to insignificance. Our insignificance, that is.
Yeah, that's one part. Yeah, our insignificance. And what else would this lend? How would I say this? What else would this lend believability to?
You have to tell me.
Aliens.
Oh, okay. The creator outside.
You can't have aliens without evolution. These billions of years and galaxies, right? You can't have them. They don't work. You can't have aliens in a flat domed Earth, right?
Right. And they want aliens for sure.
It's always good to take a step back. It's kind of, you know, I always like to get into the weeds. You know, I get lost in there myself. But sometimes it's good to take a step back from the trees and the branches and look at the forest.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is all connected. We were talking about it on the show today, and I'm sure someone was like, no, can we bring this back onto flat Earth? And it's like, no, this is absolutely flat Earth related. It's based, the foundations.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. Right, so when you said you're on page 50, if you take it back to the moment where there were no humans on this plane, this Earth, whatever it is that we're on, ultimately the question that page 1, paragraph 1, has to start with the question, how did the humans get onto this planet? Be it humans or other life forms, where did the life forms start? That has to be page 1. Because sorry, the dog just attacked us. Because if you're not on page 1 and you're not asking the basic question, where did life come from? Life can only have been created. There is no other explanation for it to get here, because even if let's just say, for argument's sake, that we did evolve from apes, where did the apes come from? Well, they've got a common ancestor. Well, where did they come from? Well, they've got a common ancestor. Well, where did they come from? Follow it back as far as you can go. At some point, somebody must have put this life form on here, because how would it exist otherwise? Where did it evolve from? A rock? So it has to be creation. There is no other explanation.
Yeah, right. But like I said, I mean, you don't have matter, so you don't have chemicals. And even if you have chemicals, you're not getting a single functional molecule. It's physically and chemically impossible to even form a single functional DNA, RNA, or protein 30 more or higher. You ain't getting it. It ain't happening. But I can just go back to quantum. You're not even getting matter. Where'd you get sugars from? That's matter. Where'd you get the universe from? That's matter. Yeah. Where'd you get that from? It's over.
However far you trace it back, even if you did find the common ancestor that managed to reproduce with himself or herself to then like get the system going, whatever that common ancestor was, the being of that created everything from that one common ancestor, you have to then look at, well, how did that ancestor come into being? And you have to look at the DNA, because we all know that DNA seems to be a thing. Well, that DNA structure must have come from somewhere. That has to have been put into place by something. So even if you did have a common ancestor that was an ape, and trace it back all through the generations, trillions and trillions of years or whatever, somebody somehow put that first thing on here, because it can't evolve from nothing. Yeah, because the chances of one being, be it an ape or whatever, evolving from nothing with DNA and the combinations that make DNA into the thing that being was that back then, is basically, it is possible, right? But it's so infinitely minute, so small.
No, it's not possible. And we need to stop with this common descent, common ancestry, ape stuff. These are fairy tales. Show me the experiment.
I agree, but this is the alternate argument that's argued in favor of creation.
It's not an argument.
No, I agree completely.
It doesn't have anything to do with creation.
I agree completely. Are you familiar with what was the name of that case that we were talking about this morning, Nath? The monkey case in what was it called? They were basically
missing links, basically all the different various missing links.
Monkey case.
There's loads of them. Piltdown Man, you name it. They're all found to be fakes.
What you mean, like a law?
No, not Lucy.
Case?
Not Lucy. It was the something monkey case. Basically, what it was in the 19th. Yes, that's it.
Say it again. What was the name again?
They weren't allowed to teach evolution, right? And it went to court because some guy started teaching evolution or whatever. Went to court, and it was found that he was allowed to teach you.
Wait a second.
But it's
evolution.
nonsense.
Evolution? What's that?
Yeah, I agree. It's anybody that honestly believes in evolution. You might as well believe in Santa, because there's more proof and evidence that Santa exists than there is that evolution is the reason why we're here. It's
evolution.
ridiculous.
What's that? See, I'm going to drive you absolutely crazy. Every time you say that, I'm going to say, what is it? Please post the scientific theory of evolution. I've been asking that question for 12 years, from not only Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker, but in the halls of academia. You know what they do? They call me names.
Yeah.
Not a single person has answered that question, because they can't, because it's a fairy tale. It never and will never exist. Period. End of story.
Cool. I'm happy to round out there unless there's any other questions or loose ends we need to tie up.
No, I'm good.
John, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that'll just about do it for today, Nathan. What do you think?
I think you've left me dumbfounded, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I'm happy to remain dumbfounded and round out the show there. So with that, I'm going to say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to Quantum Eraser for joining us on Science versus Scientism, and also a massive thank you to Sleeping Warrior for asking his questions at the end there. Thank you very much indeed. Also, huge thanks to everybody who tuned in. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!